So how does an insecure, unemployed mother of 4 children living in emergency housing and in fear of her safety, how does she become a confident leader who then goes on to crack the code of what females need to break intergenerational patterns and cycles? There's a lot of personal development tools out there, and you've probably tried a few yourself in your own journey, and you've probably gotten some really good results too. But like so many women that I speak to, no matter what I did, nothing seemed to really stick. Everything was fine while I was consciously using the tools on myself, but as soon as I stopped, all my doubts and fears would come back. And this lady found the exact same thing. She was training thousands of women every year, sharing with them the exact same thing that had made her so successful, training them in the best business and personal development processes that she herself used that caused her to be the #1 business trainer within a Fortune 500 company. What she uncovered along the way, though, was that in the business success industry, a lot of the trainers and business training companies knew that more than 97% of people that were training at any given time would absolutely be gone within 2 to 3 years. And they would leave with less confidence than when they started, because this was then just another thing that they failed at. She knew personal development was vital to their success, and in fact, one of the reasons she was able to help so many people. But she also noticed that it only ever lasted short term. She would breathe as much belief into them as she could, which did lead to a high level of success in comparison to what others were able to achieve. But it wasn't enough, because it wouldn't stick, and they would do it while she was in their face, but when she wasn't around, it would just wear off. And knowing that, it made her feel so sad, watching these women struggle when all she really wanted was for them to succeed. She felt like she was feeding the problem instead of making it better. So this led her to searching for a way to help women to truly believe in themselves, not just because somebody else told them that they should. She got certified at the highest level in multiple methods like NLP, timeline therapy, hypnosis, rapid EFT, and every other modality that ended in a T that was in existence at the time. She spent over $100,000 to train with the best so that she could understand the intricacies of how they all worked. And she took on numerous personal clients alongside her other business because she was hell-bent on finding a way to help women be able to believe in themselves and become resilient so that they could succeed long-term. Now, while she was testing all of these methods, she took on both male and female clients, and she got some really good results too. But it mainly seemed to be with her male clients. What she found was that her female clients would revert back within 12 to 18 months to having the same issues that she'd already used these other processes on. And that really frustrated her. But being the woman that she is, she turned that frustration into motivation to uncover why. And that led her to really start researching. She spent up to 18 hours a day for about 6 years. That's more than 13,000 hours submerged in books and studies to analyze the behind the scenes of the female mind. And what she found completely blew her away. She looked into the history of all the methods that she was using to find out where they came from and what the foundational principles and beliefs they were built on. And what she discovered was that they were very left brain, mechanical and masculine, and they were missing what females needed for lasting change. So, for example, if you were to pick just one and look at NLP, which is the modeling of excellence, the one and only female therapist that they modeled was a lady by the name of Virginia Satir. Now, she watched every video ever released on Virginia delivering her therapy, and what she noticed was that they modeled the wrong part. In her opinion, what they missed was how Virginia Satir used her maternal instinct with her clients. So that made her question where everything originated from. You know, that's just how it's always been done. It wasn't good enough. How can anything evolve if we all just settle and never ask why? And because she wasn't formally educated and indoctrinated into a set way of thinking, she was able to see everything from a different perspective. So she would research the researchers. Who said that? Where did they get their information from? And what she found was that every single modality that ever existed was created by males. Now, that's not good, it's not bad, it just is. Because way back when psychology first came about in 1879, only men were allowed to study science. So everything has originated from the male's perspective. Even the female contributors of the DSM-5, which is the psychology Bible, even those contributors were only reverberating what they were taught directly by men, which means women's deep-rooted issues were not being addressed because they're coming from this one-size-fits-all belief system. Males have taught us throughout history, and this has never been questioned. All the processes, the methodologies, the modalities, they've all been adapted from the original perspective, which is that of a male brain. So what may have been missed because we've inadvertently fallen into the trap of that's how it's always been done? Because you can't fathom what you can't fathom. Just like we don't really know what it's like to be male, men don't really know what it's like to be female. And as much as we can understand each other, unless you are that, you can't fully fathom what it's like. It'd be like a woman who's never had any children trying to tell a mother how to raise them based on theory alone. Now, we know that men and women are different. And the more she studied these gender differences, and when I say gender, I really mean sex. You are either born with a uterus or you weren't. Every cell in our body is coded female. Did you know that they can dig up a skeleton thousands of years old and they can tell what sex it is just from its bones? So it's not just our girly bits that make us female, it's wired into every cell of our body. So the more she studied the gender differences, the more apparent it became of just how different we are in so many ways. Did you know that as recently as 2014, it was still not mandatory for scientists to test on female mice? The female subject was the male mouse who'd been castrated at birth. And the reason for this was because the female's hormones got in the way of their delicately calibrated experiments. Scientists are only now realizing just how significant a problem this is because of all the side effects that women are having because the dosage of the drugs that we're being prescribed have been miscalculated. The very thing that makes us female has been discarded because hormone fluctuations are inconvenient in a lab. Try being a woman and see how inconvenient hormones are. She also studied females and epigenetics, which is the science of how unresolved behavioral patterns are passed down family lines. Now, something that she learned in NLP was that one of the jobs of the unconscious mind was to run the body. Okay, but we've got a different body to men. And we all know that. I'm not telling you anything new here. So wouldn't it make sense then that we would need a different program to run our hardware? Otherwise, it's like trying to install an Apple app onto a Samsung phone. They're just not compatible, even though they essentially do the same thing. The female body has been wired to run a uterus, and its sole purpose is to divide one cell into 100 trillion cells, transferring DNA from the sperm and the egg into every cell to create a human being. How does it know to do that? We don't have to plan to grow a baby. Oh, today I'm going to grow the arms, tomorrow I'll work on the fingers. I'm busy the day after that, so maybe later in the week I'll get onto the internal organs. It just happens unconsciously, doesn't it? Men are not built to do that. It's not their job. So why would they be given access to the program that does do that? She hypothesized that because of our biological differences and what each sex is designed to do, females must access a different realm of the unconscious to males. And the uterus plays a much bigger role than we realize. It's where it all happens. It's the incubator. It's not just 50-50 DNA from the sperm and the egg. The environment in which the fetus develops plays an important role. Now, we know this, don't we? We're told when we're pregnant, or if we're thinking of becoming pregnant, make sure you look after yourself, eat well, exercise, don't drink or smoke, reduce stress, because all of these things affect the baby's development. So what does this have to do with epigenetics? Have you ever noticed patterns in your family or maybe in other people's families? Things that seem to play out generation after generation. In this lady's family, there are generational patterns of abuse. She suffered child sexual abuse, domestic violence. Her husband would kick her in the head with steel-capped boots. She was raped. There was emotional abuse and mental abuse. And it didn't just happen to her. Her mother and her mother's mother also experienced abuse. And some of these patterns of abuse played out with her kids. 4 generations that they know of. And that's only because previous generations are not around to ask. So goodness knows how many generations ago it really started. And another pattern is 4 generations of women having had guns held to their head. What are the chances of that? But how does a pattern become a pattern? Now, she was adamant that her kids would not be the 4th generation to suffer from child sexual abuse. And despite everything that she did to try and prevent it from happening, it still happened. It was her epigenetical destiny playing out. And the day that she found that out, it almost broke her. Science is now proving that unresolved stresses and traumas and patterns from previous generations are being passed down in our DNA. This is epigenetics. But how does it get passed down? Via the uterus, the incubator, the creator of life. Females are designed to pass on these patterns through the development of the fetus, unconsciously. We wouldn't consciously pass on the program that says, well, when this woman turns 40, make sure something happens in her life to trigger breast cancer, just like her mum and her grandma before that. We are epigenetics. It's not just a scientific theory to us. Now, we don't have to understand how it works. It just is, because that's what we've been designed to do. The sperm and the egg are the 2 blueprints that come together. The uterus, the environment in which they develop, where there's a direct feed tube from the mother, means that any current stresses and traumas are also contributing to the development. Now, when scientists first started studying the DNA, they used to wash the spool off that surrounded it because they didn't think it was important. What they've since discovered was that this spool is what told the DNA how to behave. Now, this is how an eye cell knows to be an eye and a kidney cell knows to be a kidney. This lady hypothesizes that one day science will realize the significance of the uterus and include it in their studies around epigenetics. So she took everything that she had learned about women, not just that we have biological gender differences, we all know that. It's what those differences mean to women when it comes to personal development and breaking cycles, where everything has originated from. Nothing has changed in 150 years. Yes, there are different modalities have come about, but they still stem from the male principles, which are based on how males are designed. Now, remember, you can't fathom what you can't fathom. We barely understand ourselves, so what chance do men have? It's like when the wheel was first invented. Now, before that moment, there was a problem that needed to be solved. How can we move something along the ground easier? Then somebody invented the wheel. Records say that this was around 3500 BC. From that initial invention, there were variations, but the principle of it, as in it needed to roll, was still the same. It wasn't until 1839 that the sled was invented, more than 5,000 years later. So what if there is another way? But because we've been so conditioned to not question the foundations, that we've completely missed it. We are epigenetics. We are the ones that pass on the DNA. It's not just the sperm and egg. The environment in which it develops matters. So to truly break a pattern, it must take that into consideration. Women are crucial as an influence if we are to see real change. So she merged all of this knowledge with everything she discovered that didn't work, and that was based from all of her training in the different modalities and her experiences that she had with them on both herself and on her female clients. She could see the gaps and then was able to link the dots. Doctors weren't talking to psychologists, and no one was talking to the endocrinologists. They're the ones who deal with hormones. Did you know that 41% of women admitted to a psych ward were either just before or the first day of their period? No one was asking them, so, is this a pattern for you? Does this happen every month? We're just led to believe that we're crazy and the solution is to prescribe a pill. There was still something missing, though, that was needed to complete this puzzle. Something that happened to her 16 years before she discovered all of these missing links. In 1996, she was relocating to another town to escape her ex-husband. She'd had 6 protection orders, and she was told that this was the absolute last help that the system was going to give her. They would relocate her one last time, and then she was on her own. She wasn't even allowed to go to women's shelters because her being there put the other women in danger. So she packed up her car with everything she owned, along with her 4 young children and the dog. And she left everything that she knew, all her friends, all her family. Along the way, she stopped at a phone booth to call her mum just to let her know where she was and that she was okay. The next thing she knew, she woke up on the floor of that phone booth and she was looking up through the headlights of the car and she could see her kids and the dog jumping around the back seat. She had no idea what had just happened. All she knew was that in that moment, the world was silent. She couldn't hear anything. And it was as if time had stood still. It was like she was seeing reality for the first time in her life. And she realized that somehow she kept getting herself into these life-threatening situations. And in that moment, she realized if nothing changed, her and the kids could end up dead. There was no more just saying that she wanted to. She knew in that moment that she was going to, no matter what it took. She later found out that what had happened to her was that she had had her first grand mal epileptic seizure and experienced a real-life wake-up call, a bleak moment in time that caused her to completely turn her life around. Now, anyone who has a wake-up call and makes such dramatic changes to their life, they try to help others by showing them what they did. But that's not what caused them to take the actions. We've all seen them, haven't we? They write a book to tell you what they did, or they try and teach you what to do, but you don't get their results because what they're teaching you is what happened after their wake-up call. You already know what you should be doing, but it's not enough to make you do it, is it? How many books and programs have we all done? And yet we're still running our old patterns. It's what happened in the wake-up call. That is the real missing piece to creating the lasting change that we're all searching for. What she realized is that a modality, no matter how good it's designed, it's not enough to cause pivotal, irreversible change in the majority of people, and especially in women. No one else has ever realized this before, and it's not being taught. There is so much more at play. So looking back at her wake-up call, because she experienced firsthand what happens, she was able to unpack what went on, and from that has created an entire body of knowledge called transformology. It's everything that happens naturally in a person who then goes on to change their life dramatically. This is what she unpacked and is teaching women around the world to facilitate in others, so that anyone who is really ready to take 2 steps forward and no more steps back, they can experience the wake-up call without having to experience the traumatic event that usually goes with it. Psychology, it can be slow and painful. Life coaching is very conscious. Hypnotherapy is unconscious. NLP is very masculine and mechanical. All of these things can be helpful, but they fail at lasting change for women because they don't integrate at a whole mind, body, soul, spirit, epigenetical level, which is essential for a system like ours. Transformology is an entire set of conscious and unconscious conditions that are the secret to rapid, lasting change, just like the level of change that's triggered from a real life wake-up call. Everything that has happened in this woman's life is the reason why she had to be the one to find a solution for women. She had to play out her epigenetical destiny and see it play out in her children, because that really fueled her desire to find a way to break the patterns, because she didn't want her grandchildren to have to suffer the same fate. She had to be told there's no more help. So then she was forced to help herself and make the hard decisions and follow through by taking the actions. It showed her a strength that she never knew she had. And it also showed her what women are capable of. If she can do it, anyone can do it. The fact that she didn't come from an educated background meant that she wasn't indoctrinated into one way of thinking, so she could ask the questions that no one else had asked before. She had to experience that level of success where she was training thousands and thousands of women every single year to see the gaps in personal development, to be able to see firsthand how what was supposed to work, it simply wasn't, to see that something was missing. It was her unwavering commitment to finding a solution. 16 and a half years of wanting so badly to change the lives of others, to truly help a woman break free of her limiting patterns and cycles, to make a bigger, deeper difference, and to ensure her grandkids didn't have to suffer the way that she did and the way that her kids did. She had to have her wake-up call to truly understand what happens in that moment, to know that your life can be turned around on a dime. Now, it wasn't until years later, when she was fully immersed in her research, that she reflected on that wake-up call moment, and she realized that it was the last piece of the puzzle that made everything fall into place. It was always going to take a woman who experienced all of these things to be able to fathom what was missing, to ask the right questions that led her to break new ground, and then go on to create the ultimate female transformational program in existence. To truly break the deep-rooted generational cycles in women, she knew that it had to be something that was designed specifically for females. Not something that's been adapted and is still based on the principles that were established more than 150 years ago. It also had to be safe. She has seen way too many horror stories of women trapped in trauma by the very thing that's supposed to help them. And it had to stick long term. She then combined all of that with transformology. And what she ended up with is the perfect blend that women have waited centuries for. So they're able to, in just a few short sessions, finally break through the patterns and sabotage they've previously been unable to move forward from. And it also comes with a money-back, outcome-based guarantee that no one else in the personal development industry is able to offer. It's the only process that we know of that has been designed by a woman, specifically for women, taking into account all that we are as females. So it's compatible with how our whole system is wired. It's been designed according to the science of epigenetics, because that's what's needed to truly break entire patterns that were previously ingrained at the deepest level possible. It's not enough to just change a belief. It must, at the same time, integrate across our entire system so that our values, our thoughts, our emotions, and our beliefs are all in alignment if you want to cause long-term results. It replicates what happens in a real-life wake-up call without you having to experience the trauma that usually goes with one. And we can guarantee that the exact issues you work on are totally resolved, so they're no longer a problem in your life, even if you've worked on them for multiple years. We have women 8 years on where the things that they worked on have not returned. Now, the best that she was able to get with any of her other modalities was around 12 to 18 months before her female clients reverted.
I can remember, when I turned 40, I was so full of grief, absolutely grief-stricken. The sadness was totally overwhelming. I couldn't get out of my own way at all. I was basically, on the floor, breathing and existing, crying most of the time. And now it's such a distant memory. I can remember that that's where I was, but I cannot feel that. 7 years later, I do not feel that. It's just nowhere in my body. I have a completeness that I never would have imagined. I never thought possible. And I'd never felt that anywhere else in my life before. I tried NLP. I tried a lot of other programs as well. Reiki and energy healing and so many other things, and it just always was there. I might have felt good for a couple of weeks, or I don't think it was ever very much longer than that, but it always came back.
I think for me, I get caught up in a bit of a cycle, so I get very self-critical. Bit of a pity party, really beat myself up, get quite depressed, and then have to kind of really work hard to get myself back out of it. So things for me for longer than they really should. Take things on way too personally.
It's so confronting watching that, because even though I can see, there's no tear, I had a bit of a tear, because all I could think of was remembering how messed up I was at the time, and even watching that, just how much in control I was trying to be. And so I kind of look at her and I think, you would never have made it. She wouldn't have made it. So yeah, I do. I feel sorry for her. I'm so glad that she was able to, me back then was able to do what I did. So I had Creatrix 4 years and 10 months ago, and it feels like an entire lifetime. Since then, I've encountered some really challenging experiences in my life that I have handled in a way that I would never have been able to handle. And I've made choices and changes that have powerfully affected the direction of my life that I also would never have been able to make. So Creatrix has given me confidence, it's given me courage, it's tapped me into an inner strength that I never knew I had, and that has helped me navigate some of the shittiest experiences that you could ever have in life with complete, confidence, just a strength, an inner strength and resilience that, is going to see you well in life.
I had Creatrix 3 years ago on the issue of being childless, not by choice, and that was 3 years ago now. and that hasn't been an issue for me. I can talk about it now without that charge, without breaking down, without the sadness, without the loneliness, without the grief, because I've been able to move through those big emotions. As new things pop up in my life, I can also use Creatrix to help me with that. And for anybody out there, there's always going to be new issues that come on in your life because life goes on, and it's a tool that you'll always be able to use.
I first started Creatrix a bit over 3 years ago. I can't quite remember. I think it was hurt, guilt, shame, all of those. Well, not even an issue anymore. And as time goes on, I just realise how strong I am now. You know, it's just such an inner strength.
And it's long lasting, 2 years on now, 2 years not on now, and none of those things bother me anymore. I don't want any of those things back in my life anymore, and it's stayed. I've done NLP and things like that, and they were very short lived and they didn't last, where this created this who I am. Like it allowed who I truly am in my core, and my essence allowed me to be me.
I started Creatrix about 3.5 years ago. The main emotions that I really wanted to lose, that I'd carried with me for most of my life, were grief and loss. And now I'm standing tall. I don't have those heavy feelings anymore. The Creatrix process, it's long lasting, it's effective, it's everything a woman needs to get rid of emotions that keep her stuck.
It is the best and biggest investment in yourself that you will ever do. It will effectively save your life to the point of giving you your life back.
It goes against everything that we've been led to believe about what's needed for females to achieve long-lasting results. And although this sounds quite complicated, one of her natural gifts was to take a complex problem and create a simple solution. It's what caused her to be so successful, and it's what allowed her to take everyday women, regardless of their background and any previous industry training, to be able to facilitate this unique, cutting-edge, female-formulated program. Creatrix Transformology. One method for all issues, delivered in one easy-to-follow, step-by-step program. Now, you're probably wondering, who is this woman who created this groundbreaking process? Well, her name is Marilyn Shermer, and she comes from a little beach town in North Queensland called Flying Fish Point. Marilyn, or Maz as she's known, is on a mission to set 10 million hearts free. And she knows that she can't do it one-on-one. She needed to pass on the method before she passed on, and that led her to create the Institute of Women International to take select women into a tight-knit community. She wanted to develop a place where these women, who also wanted to empower others, could not only be trained, but always supported and loved. She knew that if she could find the women who already had the desire that she had to change this world and break those patterns, then her life, her story of suffering, her family's suffering, and the millions of too many other women suffering, all would not be in vain. So if what you've heard makes sense, maybe you've tried other things and you know they helped, but it didn't quite get you the result you wanted for yourself and others. It's just because it wasn't designed to how we females operate. That's all. And if you have a passion like Maz to change this world, then maybe this program is for you. To apply, you must want your daughters and future generations to not live the history that women have suffered for way too long. Enough is enough. The Institute of Women International is now at a point where we have 260 Creatrix Transformologists in 18 countries around the world, setting women's hearts free. They're breaking patterns and cycles of centuries of suffering to live their lives without limitations in a beautiful, organic, whole and natural way. They don't just do it for the cause and to create a legacy. They also get to live their own life and create a financially prosperous lifestyle, working solely from home, online, and around their own families and according to their own values. The Creatrix Transformology program is a 12-month program that's run completely online. Even the face-to-face component where you learn how to deliver Creatrix is done online. It's done in small groups so you get the care and attention you need, as our experienced trainers are right there with you, coaching and guiding you. Now, at this point in the training, we get you to a standard where you're then able to get out there and get paying clients within 8 weeks of starting, because we are right there with you the whole way, holding your hand and providing you with more ongoing training and support. You learn about transformology and what's needed to cause a woman to transform so that you can offer a money-back, outcome-based guarantee to your clients and know that this is the last money that she'll ever have to spend on the issues that she's struggling with at that time. You're also added to our secret Facebook groups where you get to ask client-specific questions that are answered by Maz and her trainers. And you've got the support and the experience of all the other transformologists worldwide who are already doing what you want to do. It is an incredibly supportive, non-judgmental environment where everyone truly wants you to succeed. There's none of that competition or jealousy that can happen when you get a bunch of women together, because we Creatrix anything that's going to get in the way of us setting hearts free. And you're surrounded by like-minded women who really get what you're doing. We also know that life is a journey. There's always going to be something new for you to learn that causes you to grow and be able to step up. Now, up until now, you've just been taking the stairs to get to your next level. Creatrix is the express elevator. And as a Creatrix Transformologist, you have Creatrix on tap whenever you need it to smash through any new glass ceilings that may arise. We have an extensive resources library full of training videos. There's templates, step-by-step checklists for you to use so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Now, you might have heard this before, that the brain can only take in about 137 bits of information from the 2 million bits it's presented with each second. So we've set up our training and resources library so that when you need the information, it's there for you to learn it, or it's there for you to refresh yourself. We think we want to know it all first. You know, once we have all the information, then we'll take the steps. But what actually happens is that we go into overwhelm because there's too much information. And then when we're overwhelmed, we shut down because it all comes too hard, doesn't it? Maz knows women, and she's set this program up to work with how we are wired. That causes us to have the greatest chance of success. You get a simple formula, a step-by-step, fail-proof way where you can not only actualize your dream and mission of empowering women for a living, you also get to be set free yourself as the sweet bonus that comes with being part of such a profoundly unique program.
It's just been mind-blowing to me. I can't even put it into words, I suppose. It's just mind-blowing.
Right now in this moment, it's the most amazing place I've ever been.
I'm just so excited now.
It's just amazing feeling, electrifying what we could do for other women.
I love it. I'm in love.
It just feels so good to be able to do that for somebody else in such a simple and quick way. It's unreal.
It's the best experience ever.
It's just amazing.
So good.
Absolutely priceless.
It's phenomenal. Can't explain it.
So much fun.
It kind of warms your heart and soul, and you know you're doing something good.
It feels fantastic.
I guarantee you 100% results.
This is a one-stop shop.
Nothing this week's failed.
I just love the authentic approach to this.
It was the best decision I ever made. It gave me so much more than what I was expecting.
So if empowering women is your dream and you want to be able to confidently get a woman to believe in herself, click the link to take the next step.